Thank you. I'm happy to be here. What is this actually, and how can we put it into our own lives to get really great results? I have the amazing Taylor Carr. Thank you so much for having me. But it is beautiful when you can be a woman who's open and loving and still smart and savvy and modern and classic and all these things, because the feminine is the all. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Modern Muse Diaries with me, Taylor Carr. I'm so excited to have you here, so honored, and today I have a very special guest with me. So just a little bit of context. Earlier in 2025, I decided to deepen my experience as a dating, love, and relationship coach with a focus in feminine energy, and I decided to bring some professionals on board and get a new certification. And I signed up for Rory Ray's program, and I ended up getting to work personally one-on-one with the amazing Naomie Thompson. So I decided to bring her on board onto the podcast to have a beautiful chat for you guys today. Naomie, welcome to the Modern Muse Diaries.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, Taylor. It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to see you. You look so vibrant and beautiful and amazing. I would love to just have you start off with who you are, what you do in the world, and also we'll get to it, but your story, because you have a beautiful story on your way to love as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, like you, I'm a dating and relationship coach. I typically work with accomplished women dating after divorce or women dating after a lifetime of the wrong relationships. I specialize in specifically working with women dating after divorce or getting to that kind of later age where they really want children, really want a family, but it just doesn't seem to be happening. And and really, the former was where I was at, you know, married, had my children, and then my marriage kind of exploded in a very kind of very kind of I can't even think of the word, yeah, just explosive way. And you know, it's like I felt like I shattered into a million pieces. And then all those pieces started to kind of land differently. And, is this a good time to kind of share some of my story?
Please
Yeah.
do, yeah.
I mean, Taylor, I was the girl like so many girls and so many women that I had a dad who wasn't present. I just craved feeling seen and adored and just, I've even named my coaching curriculum Adored because because I was just the girl who wanted to be adored, but I didn't quite know what that was. And I grew up just knowing that I felt this craving for it. And then when I started to look out there at relationships, I just worked hard for them. And I just thought the harder I work, the more helpful I am, the more clever I am, the more cool I am, the more low maintenance I am, that he'll kind of see. And finally, I'll get that adoration. And the men who wanted to adore me, um, it was like their love and attention came too easy. And it's only looking back, having been on the path that I've been to and being where I am now, that I realized that love to me equaled hard work and effort.
Wow.
And it's and just I think so many women can relate to that. So I worked hard for it and then got really resentful when it didn't come through my hard work, and really had no idea how to be vulnerable, had no idea how to really share my feelings. Feelings were not a place that I would go to. I'd do a lot of thinking, but not a lot of feeling. And my thinking had opinions about my husband, opinions about men, opinions. But, the the change came really when I learnt, as you know, and as you specialize in as well, is being able to be in my feminine energy, and the whole process coming to this relationship where I'm with someone who tells me he adores me every single day. And the secret and the thing that came before that is even before I met him, I knew I was adored. Yeah.
I think so. Like what you said, so many women can relate to that because we show up so cerebral. We're like, I know that A plus B equals C in every other corner of my life. So when it comes to dating, it must be the same. I work hard, I effort really hard at this, there's a formula, and then I get the thing. And I think this is where really high performing women burn out in the dating world is, but I did the right things. I was the perfect girl. I was sexy. I was playful. I poured into them. I was nurturing. I cherished them. I baked them cookies and sourdough, and I was hot. And I think this is where women get really frustrated because they're like, what is feminine energy? What does that even mean? What do you mean you
Yeah.
just were adored and then you became adored? What does that mean? So I'd love to hear from you what feminine energy means to you as Naomi.
Well, what it means to me is shifting my focus onto me and what's happening with me in the moment. Like, okay, so that sounds really concepty. So feminine energy to me is what I would have done before is reacted from my thinking. I would have had opinions. So for example, I give you a great example. When my marriage fell apart, my husband had an affair. I'm very open about it. It happens to so many people. My husband had an affair, and all of that control I had, all of that armor I had, just exploded. So I just felt this, I was like this raw, vulnerable, beating heart, you know. I couldn't kind of hide behind the tough shell anymore. And that's when I started just feeling. So what I would have done before is had opinions about him. I would have told him what I thought he should be doing. I would have deflected any personal responsibility about things and told him what he was doing wrong. I would have tried to mold and change him to be the man that I wanted him to be. And it's like I had to keep hold of control all the time. I had to be right. I had to keep control. And, when we have people like that in our lives, we get, it's just too much. It's just stop doing it. But I have a huge sympathy and compassion for women who are in that space because that's where I was. And I didn't know, I desperately wanted my feelings cherished, but I didn't know how to feel them and express them.
Mm.
And that really is, feminine energy. And I'm sure a lot of your audience are going to know the fundamentals of feminine energy. If masculine is thinking, feminine is feeling. If masculine is doing, feminine is being. It just, how often do we just stop and feel? Now, I believe I've had a lifetime of anxiety. It's only in recent years when I realized that I went, well, what is that? It's a feeling in my body. It's a, it's thoughts that have turned into feelings in my body, in my solar plexus, some sparky feelings. What if I just feel them and don't come to any other conclusions and just feel those feelings in my body? What happens? And then what I found, and then what if I do that in a man's presence? What if I do that on a date with a guy? What if I allow men to do things for me that I'm perfectly capable of doing for myself? When I was separating and dating 10 years ago, people would still open doors. I mean, now everything's electric, isn't it? But, okay, let a guy open a door. Let the guy step off the pavement when I walk up the street. Whereas I was always the girl who was helpful and didn't want to be any trouble. And I would hop off the pavement, walk in the road while everyone else walked on the street. And it was really practicing that and practicing with my ex-husband now when things were, really terrible, actually going, what is it that I'm feeling? What is the emotion? Not what do I think, not what's my opinion of him, but how do I feel right now? And what if I just said it? I feel angry. I feel afraid. I feel sad. I feel confused. But what that took was for me to feel the vulnerability of expressing the feelings. So, so I did this in little baby steps. And a lot of the time when times were really tough, when I was just grieving my marriage and not knowing what was happening, could I trust the ground I was walking on? I would literally I had something I put on my phone and it said, relax, nothing is under control.
I love that.
And it was a picture of a woman just laying on a bed, just like this, her arms out. And that's what I would do. Literally lay down and feel the feelings moving through my body. And what I have often said to the women I work with is, feelings fully felt will flow through you. Feelings are meant to be felt, not thought. We often go and think our feelings, but actually just to feel them. And I remember saying to my ex-husband, I'd just say, I feel all tangled up and clenchy. Nothing perfect about that. It's just, there's no highbrow language. It's simple. So
Yeah.
really, that is what feminine energy is to me, is being more myself than I ever dared to be with other human beings.
Mm,
So it's not about putting something on. It's about taking off what I thought I should be.
yeah.
And I just feel more myself and allowing myself to be imperfect. And that is why I'm loved so much, for the things that, the vulnerabilities about me. So yeah.
There's so much there that I would love to just like dissect little bits and little bits. And for everyone listening to this, you can see why Naomi was brought into my life as the woman that I decided to learn from, because you say so many things that I say, but you give me like a new angle. And I'm like, oh, I haven't heard it said like that, but I felt that. I have totally felt that. Recently, I was on a podcast in a studio and I mentioned vulnerability. And I mentioned, like what would happen if you showed up vulnerable on a first date? Not throwing all your trauma on the table, but in your feelings or admitting you feel nervous or something along those lines. And one of the most these women were so beautiful, and she was I can't do that, and she had a physical reaction to being vulnerable. Could you speak to that, and for the women who are afraid of vulnerability?
Oh, it's what we believe vulnerability is. I'm not talking about the kind of vulnerability where you are vulnerable to attack. You're walking down a dark street on your own in a rough area of town, or, you know, I would say this is the vulnerability, and you feel this over time. Vulnerability is going to be your strength, you know, and and if you want to keep meeting the same kind of guys, if you want to meet the hot and cold guys, the guys who are flaky, the guys who will come on really strong and then they fade away when actually, real connection and intimacy starts happening, then keep guarding your heart. Keep doing it. But if you want the kind of deep connection where you're really seen, where you're really known, where someone gets you and you just breathe out because you know that even if you're a bit prickly one day, or even if you kind of blow up about something and because you're premenstrual, you're just going to be loved and he can handle that, then learning just how to be vulnerable in really small increments is about letting someone in. It's just letting someone in to see who you are. So I would say it starts with it, what is somebody's version of vulnerability? And as you said, it's not about coming and saying, I I've got something I want to show you. Just one sec.
Love.
I this I made this doll for my daughter. She's 23 now. But you know, there's a version of vulnerability that I don't recommend. And what happens is when we don't know how to just open our heart, when we don't accept and just love and learn to adore the parts of us that we think we need to hide from everyone else, the parts of us that get jealous, insecure, needy, all of those, what we will do is show up with guys, and this could be over time after we've kind of held back and guarded our heart. And it's like we're going, you know, um, just love her. She's feeling really upset and needy and wounded, and she's really sad, and I need you to show up for her. And it's like we've got this sort of little girl that just needs love, and we are asking him to show up and do that.
Hmm.
Real vulnerability, just pop her back. Real vulnerability is about going, looking at yourself and going, there is part of me that feels really sensitive. There is a part of me that's needy. There's a part of me that feels really jealous of my friend and just sometimes hates her for this. All of those things, if we start owning up to those inside, if we start loving the darker parts of us, the parts of us that we hide from everyone else and pretend aren't there, what will happen is it will feel safe to let someone closer. Because I had the opinion, and I didn't know I had this opinion, but it was a general feeling in me that I wasn't worth bothering with. You know, my dad was very unpresent, not for a lack of love, but just the kind of person he was. And there was part of me that felt unworthy. So why on earth would I let anyone close? If deep down I felt like if anyone got too close, they would find that out. Well, of course I'm going to say, come and get to know me, but just this close. This is what feels safe. But so then it will feel really vulnerable opening up with a guy, because it's like, oh, I'll open up a bit, but you're going to reject me because you're going to know that I'm not quite good enough. But so that's why I say to women, you don't have to just go all in totally vulnerable and terrified. Actually, let's start with, what are the things about you that you don't want other people to see? And how about we just give those parts of you a whole load of love? How about you just adore your sensitivity? How about you just give a load of love to the part of you that gets jealous? Because you're jealous because there's something you're deeply craving. When that happens, vulnerability comes a lot easier, because it's safe to let someone in when you know that what's inside is actually really lovable because you've already got in there and loved it. So I'd say, I don't know if that's a little bit of a wiggly, windy answer for those women who struggle with vulnerability, but your vulnerability is your strength. And without it, you will keep getting the same. And with it, you will invite in the safest, most loving, kind relationship where, that he's not going anywhere and that he adores you.
It's so
That's the
true.
simple. Yeah.
I think when you're a high performing woman or just a woman in general, you always want to show up perfect. You want to be beautiful and the hair's done and the this is done, and you really want to show those sides of you, which is beautiful and it is sexy, but it isn't what makes you worthy of love in a man's eyes. I think seeing your heart and how deeply you make him feel really brings him closer to you. And this is why I think safety gets to be one of the first things that women learn when they're doing this work, because if they're trying to do all this work and be vulnerable and be magnetic and be feminine, but they don't feel safe with themselves, they don't feel safe with men, they don't feel safe walking about the world, then it's really challenging to get to a place where you can sit in front of a man and be vulnerable.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And and it starts with being safe with you. You know, I often talk about what we really want is a sanctuary relationship, a place that is a sanctuary. And when I ask women, what is a sanctuary to you? They say, it really is a place of safety. It's a place where I can just relax. I can just be myself. So even if we haven't all verbalized it like that, that's what we want. We want a relationship that's a sanctuary. And by the way, a relationship that is a sanctuary is a place that a man will want to keep coming back to, coming back to. He will feel magnetized to. Nowhere else will be where he wants to be. He will want to be in that relationship with you.
Mhm.
And that is created by how vulnerable we are willing to be, you know? And it starts with, everything I was saying before about being able to just see the sensitivities in you, see the parts of you that you don't love yet, and starting to give them some love. What you do is you create a sanctuary inside of you already. You're showing up on dates and in relationships with you being a sanctuary for yourself. You're safe with you, because I was one of the most critical people I knew. I and what I know about critical people, having been one, is that you have one stick that you beat the world with, you have 10 that you beat yourself with.
So true.
And learning to change that around meant that, my gosh, I could just be imperfect. I could just allow someone in, and I became a safe place to be. Self-criticism in my world is self-harm. Some people cut their arms, some people harm themselves with their thoughts. And when we stop doing that, you know, this becomes home, this becomes the sanctuary relationship. So you can show up to a relationship knowing, I mean, one of the things I created a new freebie, which I absolutely love, called the 9 Aspects of the Adored Woman. And oh, I just love it so much. I just adore it. And one of those aspects is that a woman knows that the relationship she wants is the prize and not the man. You
That,
know,
like a moment of silence for that. I let it hit me. Um, yeah, I feel like one of the hardest things that I guide women through is it doesn't have to be him. We would love for it to be him, but it doesn't have to be. And we get to be more devotional to the version of you in the future who has the things she wants than how she gets them or who she gets them through.
yes, exactly, exactly. And it's even when you are in the best relationship of your life, I know I am in the best relationship of my life. I have no doubt I will marry him very soon. I, it's, and my intention is to be with him for the rest of our lives. However, I have no power over people. I can't control what happens in life. And even now, I know that he isn't the prize. How I feel with him is the prize. How I feel in our relationship is the prize. How calm my nervous system is with him is the prize. The life we're building together is the prize. And that feels strong, because then no matter what happens in life, I can trust myself to be okay and keep moving forward and keep moving forward. But when a woman understands that the relationship she wants is the prize and not the man, then dating, or that urgency for your man to show up just the way you want him to, will start to shift when a woman learns that.
This is such a more beautiful definition of what I am the prize means. One of the things I've been talking a lot about lately, and maybe I shouldn't be, but I just am myself, is the way that blanket statements are thrown around online so that everyone feels like they have relationship coaches at every corner. But a blanket statement doesn't solve individual problems. And so when people are going around going, Queen, you're the prize in love, you're the prize in love, that's beautiful. But like, what's beneath that? What's deeper than that? What does that even mean? And I think that this is a great place to feel what that means and to learn about what that means. There's so many places I would like to go with you on this podcast right now. And I think one of the ways that there's 2 things coming through right now. One is just me sharing. I'm hosting a masterclass right now called the Aphrodite Effect. We're at the end of it. And I've had so many women reach out to me because at the beginning I said, there are 4 levels of listening. You can listen to me at level 1 where you're just hearing me and it's nice. You can listen at level 2 where you're feeling me. 3 is like, whoa, the world is starting to shift a little bit and I can see the results in real time. And 4 is like, this is the biggest masterpiece I've ever felt. I can feel it in my body. And so I had a lot of women reach out and say, when you talked about safety and fun and how I can move about the world as a woman who's safe with herself and be open and safer than ever. It's changing me. And then I had one woman reach out to me and go, I'm not really getting anything from this masterclass. How am I supposed to get the guy like this? And what I thought was really interesting about that is listening at level 1 versus 3 or 4, which is
Yeah.
I'm learning how to be a safe woman in the world with myself and with people. And then you can learn how to get the guy and do the thing and lean out and lean in. And but if you are not safe with yourself, you don't trust yourself, you're not a safe woman to be in partnership with, then the other stuff doesn't matter.
Oh, 100%. You know, all of this. So I use the dating process to learn about myself. I decided that meeting my man was inevitable. And even if it didn't happen till I was 82, I would keep going and I was not going to give up. And I did have a coach and she kept me going as well. I was
Yes.
going to delete, I'm just going to delete these apps. She was like, right, Naomi. And the thing here is that we need to grow and not expect ourselves to grow like this. I'm a slow burn. It took me a while to just integrate and really like make the learning that I was having become part of my blood and my bones. It took practice. It took going on dates with like really inappropriate guys. It took going on dates with guys who were absolutely wonderful, but just couldn't quite get the chemistry. It took me sometimes letting them kiss me just to see where the chemistry would grow. It took me learning more and more and more about myself, my own dysfunction. Why do I keep feeling drawn to this kind of guy? Oh my goodness, it's the dysfunction in me. Okay, now what other habits? That's one habit. What other habit can I give myself that will start to heal that dysfunction so it's not leading me? And that kind of self-awareness makes us a walking green flag for a great relationship. What we want is these women to be a walking green flag. And that is what I would say to this woman. She wants that sanctuary relationship because we all do if we're here doing this work. Anyone listening to this conversation, following you, following me, they want that sanctuary. So to have that, to meet the guy who is solid, grounded, kind, emotionally mature, open communicator, what's he looking for? He's looking for a woman who brings that as well, not a woman who's perfect. We're women, we have our emotional cycles through the month. We're not meant to be steady as rocks. However, the kind of guy that we're looking for that can give us that sanctuary relationship is looking for certain qualities as well. And we cultivate them not by kind of acting as if, but by just slowly but surely becoming intimately acquainted with ourselves, our old habits, and humbling ourselves and saying, actually, what do I have to learn to be the match for the relationship I want? And how and what that does is makes you a walking green flag. You become, a magnet for him because he's out there looking for you. And if you're hidden behind all your armor, you know, I think I was, the story Sleeping Beauty,
Yes.
the story of Sleeping Beauty. And she falls asleep in her castle and all the brambles grow up around the castle. And this prince kind of magically knows she's there and magically knows that he'll love her. And he fights through all the brambles and he gets to her. I mean, it's like when we shut up our hearts, it's like that's what we're doing. It's like we're saying, I'm in here. I want you to fight through all of my walls, all of my barriers, all of my armor to get through to the vulnerable me. And you're going to have to keep fighting forever to prove that you love me. That's what I was like.
Mhm.
But actually, your man needs to see you and not just see your hair and your body and your face, but he needs to be able to see who you are. And when a man really sees who you are just from you being open-hearted and learning feminine communication, just learning step by step, then he is going to want to commit to you forever. Men want to fall forever. They want to, and a healthy man does. And that's what creates that. And my partner, he said to me, he said, I know that you would do fine without me. And if I don't step up, that you would easily find someone else. And he said, it's my job to affair proof our relationship. It's my job to make you so happy you just never want anyone else.
Mhm.
And, I never believed that I would hear someone say that to me. But doing that work, I got to the point where I absolutely believed it was going to happen anytime. So that is the long explanation of what vulnerability can bring you.
Yeah. I'm like, if you can't see us on YouTube right now, I'm dancing to Naomi's words because, I mean, I have the same text in my phone from my fiance from when we first started dating, and it was like, you don't need me to be to he said something like, you don't need me to provide for you, and therefore I get to. And it's an honor to be able to get to do that for you. And I'm like, that's right. It's the difference between I need you, princess energy, help me. I'm like in my tower, and I'm a woman who's got it. And you come into my life and you make it a more beautiful place. And it's really, really impactful. So there's a couple things that I would love to dive in with you, especially because you have a certain specialty that I don't. And that is, women who are possibly on their way out of marriage and how that feels, and then the journey on the other side to find love again at this new iteration of you as the woman you've become. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so many women get to a certain point and they just go, I'm not getting enough from this. All the things that you've been putting up with in a marriage suddenly just become unbearable, and it becomes clear that it's time to go. I mean, I do believe that many marriages can be fixed, if we're willing, to do the work, to do the learning, and a relationship that isn't working, especially if you're in a marriage and you've got children, it's so worth doing this work while you're there. Actually, I did so much learning with my ex-husband, and I remember saying to him, I said, I want an incredible relationship. I hope it's with you. And if it's not, it will be with somebody else.
Yes.
And I knew that, but I knew that he was the person I was going to just practice on because it was the hardest situation. It's like, if I can do this here, if I can be vulnerable, if I can learn how to use feminine communication, if I can share my feelings, if I can let go of control and start to surrender more, if I can do all of that with him, my goodness, I can just do that any time in my life. So, and also I would say, if you're at that point where you are separated from maybe the father of your children, going through a divorce, wanting to look at dating again and meet a partner, again, I would just say humble yourself and know that if you knew your type, you would be happily married to him still right now.
Mhm.
And that any woman who is not in the relationship she wants and has been really going through the wrong relationships, just take on the idea that you don't know your type. You may think you do, you may have a good idea of what you think your type is, but you probably don't. And it's so important to date with the mindset of, as long as I keep going and stay open, I will meet my man. And in the meantime, I am going to practice being open, noticing my habits and patterns. I'm going to go on dates with guys that I wouldn't normally go on dates with because I want to notice what it feels like to be on a date with someone who's very attentive, very kind, called me the day before the date to check that I was all good for the day. Someone who acted with chivalry and attention. And what does it feel like to be on a date with a guy who is wanting me to do all the chasing? How does that feel? Does it feel quite exciting and addictive? Wow, isn't that interesting? So, to become like, a scientist of yourself, to be able to say, look, wow, this is what happens in me when this happens. And to know that that relationship will show up. But I'd say that, you know, take the pressure off every date being that hope that it will be the one, because you'll end up on a roller coaster of hope and disappointment, and that will waste your energy. It's like, just see it. I used to go on dates like brushing my teeth. I showed up looking good enough for my first coffee date. I just had coffee dates. I know some coaches say don't go for coffee dates, start with dinner. I'm like, girl, why would you waste your time having a whole dinner with somebody that you've never met? If you know them, if you've worked with them, if they've been friends, great, you know them. But a stranger, have a FaceTime call, go for a quick coffee, and have other things planned when you're in the town you're in.
Hmm.
I used to have my shopping bags in the boot of the car. I'd meet someone, they had my full attention. Then, as soon as I wasn't with them, they no longer existed. I'd do my shopping, and they existed when they showed up again in my life. So that is part of a dating process. But it really, a lot of women give up because it feels like it's too hard work.
Hmm.
And actually, dating does not have to be hard work. If you learn the process, dating just becomes a habit, a habit, a habit, a habit. And before you know it, you have done so much learning about yourself. Because what I know is if you are divorced, you don't want a relationship like the one you've had. You want something completely different. And this is your one precious life. So why shouldn't you have it? You know, and it may not take you nearly a decade of learning, because I think I am a slow burn. But for many women, I work with them, and within 3 to 6 months, they've turned it all around. You know, it doesn't have to take as long as it took me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We have such similar stories in the way that I didn't, have children and get divorced, but I was lover girl after lover girl after lover girl and just heartbroken after heartbroken and heartbroken. And then it took me over 10 years to figure this out. And then, 2 to 3 years of me dating differently to then, meet my, or get with my person, become engaged in 11 months and have the best relationship ever. But I just, I'm going to go back for a moment because you said I went on some horrible dates, or I went on some dates where I leaned in and I chased a little. And how did that feel? It was exciting. And I often think back to the time where I was dating 5 guys in my circular dating. And this was fall of 2022, I want to say. And there were 2 guys that I was really leaned in on and doing all the things. And there were 3 guys that I wasn't. And I was like so magnetized to the 2 guys inside of myself that I was chasing, I was driving to, I was leaning towards, I was kissing. Like I was so drawn to that. And the 3 guys who were sending me cars to pick me up during rush hour and, just setting up the most incredible dates, they were less interesting to me. And I stayed curious with myself instead of like, I'm so crazy about these guys over here. I stayed curious and open to possibility. What is that? Why do I like this more? They're not even responding to me. They're saying weird little mean comments to me. Why is that more interesting to me than the guys who are showing up really well and kindly and doing the right thing? And I think when we don't have curiosity as part of our dating process, then we really buy into the reality, quote unquote, of what's going on. Versus when I sit with these guys that are really nice to me, really kind, really chivalrous, and they show up, and I sit here and I enjoy them and I listen and I let my nervous system land in that energy, I then become more of a match to those guys rather than the other ones. So for any woman, I'm particularly thinking about a few women who were in my Muse Mastermind round 6. We get to still work on detaching from every time I go on a date, if it's not the one for me, I'm now disappointed and all of this feels hard. Versus, are you having any fun? Are you playing? Are you enjoying? Are you letting it just be part of the flow of how beautiful your life can be? And meeting new people is so wonderful and so exciting. Let yourself live. Let yourself add beauty and curiosity to your life.
Oh, absolutely. And getting curious about how you show up. Like I remember there was a guy I was dating very early on, when I was dating after separation, and he kept canceling on me, short notice. Like I would just get a text message saying that he couldn't make the date. And I noticed that little tug in me of wanting to say yes to another date with him, yes to another date. And the important thing was is that I was just noticing with awareness that I was doing that. So I said yes to another date. I noticed how it felt like there was this almost like this bubbling of excitement in me at the thought of, potentially having another date with him. And as I noticed, I could feel how dysfunctional that was. And it just became really obvious. And then he cancelled again. And I thought, okay, I'm going to say yes one more time to really press that bruise. I want to finally get this. I just want to finally get it
Mhm.
because I could tell I was on the brink. And he cancelled again and I got it. It was like he was really useful.
Yeah.
He was just so useful to me. He showed up for a reason
Yeah.
to really show me that there was this bit of dysfunction about this unavailability that I was hankering after, that I was so drawn to. And, what I say is it's like all of us who are seekers in this work and seeking to learn, it's like we've got this needy girl, this sensitive girl, this part of us, whatever you want to call her. For me, it was the needy girl. I knew the needy girl would show up at some point in the dating process with a guy. And it was like, I was just fond of her. But what I had to do is get her out of the driver's seat and into the back seat. It's like if you are moving the momentum through your life, you are in a car, that little wounded girl that gets anxious and just wants her daddy and just wants attention. It's like she's in the driver's seat, her feet can barely touch the pedals, and she's on the freeway and she is just not fit to drive.
Mm.
So, what I say is just say to her, get in the back, buckle up, look out the window, eat snacks. I get to drive. I drive. I'm the one that shows up on dates.
Mhm.
I am the one who decides whether I see someone else again. I'm capable of doing that. And, that's like almost like a visual representation of our nervous system. And I know more about the visual representation than I do about the nervous system. I'm not an expert in that. But it's like what I can say is for me and the women I work with, it's like there is a part of you inside that breathes out and go, oh, okay, I can trust you to take the lead. I don't have to, you know, that this and I sometimes say to women, if you weren't busy trying to protect your heart, if this part of you wasn't busy trying to protect your heart, trying to figure out a guy, what would it be doing? You know, maybe sitting in the back of the car, looking out the window, eating snacks, drawing pictures, looking at the trees, not fighting for us. And maybe that concept seems a bit abstract, in the midst of this conversation. But actually, I think a lot of women who are listening to these kind of conversations have that level of self-awareness that they know there is a part of them that gets pulled towards the excitement of chemistry uh, over the calm of compatibility. And if we need both, we need chemistry and compatibility in our relationships. But the mistake comes of starting with chemistry and hoping compatibility will grow.
Mhm.
And when dating, one of the best advice I can give anyone is seek compatibility and get curious if chemistry can grow.
Yes.
And if chemistry grows with a really great guy, you have struck gold for the rest of your life.
Yes.
And I had a client who she kept, she kept dating this guy, kept dating this guy. And she just said to me, I don't know. I mean, he's just lovely. We have a great time. We have a great laugh. He's a real gentleman, but the chemistry isn't happening. I said, okay, girl, you got to let him kiss you. You got to let him kiss you.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, yes, but he's being a real gentleman because he tried early on. I said, okay, just be sassy. So she showed up on the date and she just said, so what has a girl got to do to get a kiss around here? And she said that he kissed her. The chemistry just flooded. The relationship blossomed. It's all good years later.
Wow.
But she started with compatibility. When you start with compatibility, you've got a friend for life.
Mhm.
You've got the man who is going to be by your side, whether you're sick or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Chemistry, if chemistry got us connection forever, there'd be virtually no divorces now.
It's so true. I had a similar experience in my journey as well, and it didn't end up being the right person for me a few months in, but it was like he kissed me on the fifth date for like finally, and I was like, that was one of the best kisses of my life. I did not expect that. I did not feel chemistry. I just felt like he was a great guy, and I swore my knees gave out, and I could not believe that that was also a possibility. And then also learning about the chemistry I have with my fiance, it wasn't this like crazy sparky fire chemistry. I learned that for me, chemistry felt like home. Like, oh, wherever I am in the room, my home is over there, wherever he is. Like, that's my safe corner where he's standing. And so I think, again, being curious about what that actually means for you is so powerful. And I feel like this conversation is so soothing to me. I love speaking with women who like really get this work and really embody it without like the resistance or the fighting or the like, I don't get it. And so thank you for being here. I would love to just give you a moment to please share more about your freebie, because I'm going to put the link all over this podcast so that my women can get it. And then also where the women can find you if they're interested in joining any of your world.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love this free gift I created. It's called The 9 Aspects of the Adored Woman. And my podcast is starting soon, which is called The Adored Woman.
Yes.
And really, these 9 aspects, it's just the pillars, really, of who the adored woman is.
Mm-hmm.
And, she isn't somebody else. You get to be her,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to be anyone else to be her. And it's not a secret code that only some people are born with, because if it was, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Same.
So if you want that, get the 9 aspects of the adored woman. It's a video training. So, you get to see me, and come over and watch the Adored Woman podcast. It's going to be up pretty soon. I'm recording the first episodes, and yeah, NaomieThompson.com. Come and find me. I'm on YouTube. I pop lots of videos up, but yeah, come and find me, talk to me, write to me. I'm here for you. I still do one-to-one coaching. I know not everyone does nowadays, and people do say, Naomi, maybe you should shift away from that now, but I love it. I love one-to-one coaching. I find it so powerful. So yeah, here I am. Come along and find me, but do get that free training, because I'm very proud of it. I love it.
Amazing. And I know I received so much from one-to-one coaching with you too. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here. I'm going to ask you one more question and then we get to
Yeah.
end this beautiful podcast. What does it mean to you to be a modern muse in this current world?
Gosh, it just means that I play with life. I get to experience life. And as Dr. Pat Allen said, she said the feminine gets to be turned on by the things she sees and smells and tastes, and turned on by life.
Yeah.
And I just celebrate inside when I hear that, because the feeling as a woman, just to be able to experience more and feel taken care of and receive from the world and men and life, rather than doing and giving and all the time. I want every woman to feel that. So yeah, that's what being a modern muse is to me, and that's what being an adored woman is to me.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Modern Muse Diaries with Taylor Carr, and this very special episode with Naomie Thompson. I have all of her links in the show notes below. You can check out her website, her social media. She is such an amazing resource in the world of love. And this episode is brought to you by my brand new quiz, The Blind Spots in Love. So if you take the quiz, it takes under 2 minutes. You can find out exactly where you might have a blind spot in your dating and your love and your relationship life right now, and extremely tangible tools in order to shift it quickly and get better results today. That link is in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see which archetype you get. Catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.